So now it's my distinct pleasure to bring up Mike Eckhart, one of my oldest and dearest colleagues in this work, the founder of ACOR. Now he's running the Citibank Sustainable Investment Wing. And Mike, thanks so much for coming to our day once again. It's a pleasure to see you.
I'll just make a little quick note. I served on a submarine. I understand what that stuff is. But more interestingly, I arrived in India on May 12th of that year, 1998, when the bomb was detonated, and oddly enough was staying at the hotel of the retired Army officers' compound, and I watched live noon that day as the Prime Minister came on live TV and said at a podium like this, "Something great has happened, and I promise you I will get to the bottom of this." Live. It was never played again. The civilian government of India did not order the detonation. The Army did it because they felt that the civilian government was losing their guts to do it, as they had run on the plank that they would do it. So the Army literally detonated a nuclear weapon with no oversight of civilian government, and I know this personally is true. I watched it myself. So I pass that along as to why should we be concerned about this, because every place doesn't run like we do. All right, now, the big gear shift, okay? Now we're going to move into business and finance I'm probably going to surprise you, because as many of you know, I've been in this since 1976. I was one of the youngest analysts in the 70s. I'm one of the oldest people now. And so we've been after a few things here for a few decades. And the financing of the scale-up of clean energy towards a clean energy economy was articulated in the 70s as to where we had to get to. And I will say to you, we got there this year. 2014 was the year clean energy reached the capital markets at scale. And we're going to hear more about that through the next couple of hours. But there has been a breakthrough. We have seen the result of 30 years of effort in this way. And we are now there. And this should give you some hope and enthusiasm, and renewed hope and enthusiasm, that all your work and all our work is adding up to something now. And it's not going to be stopped. And we'll get more to that later. But first of all, I have been given the task, and you'll see me often like you did Randy this morning as I arrived here. And by the way, I just want you to know how well I travel. These are the clothes I wore last night on the plane. So, I try to look good on a plane as well. I'm still waiting for my bag. All right, one of those days. So where we're going next is a panel. And Eddie Steumann I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Thank you.
Decades, even. And it's really great to have Chip interview you and Carol. And Anand, can actuated valves and NH save the world? But you'll get to the point shortly. So you want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. I was introduced to Eddie's work, I guess, 4 years ago. And I didn't realize what an impact efficiency could make in the world. But this man's been doing it since the early 60s. And with Steumann Industries, Eddie has simply changed the world. His actuated digital valve technology was the device that they credit with bringing the first flights to the spacecraft to the moon back by being able to conserve energy. And that's just the first in a long list of accomplishments. So let's just get right into it. Eddie, what do you think are the solutions that need to be accelerated?
Can we have Carol first? She can.
Sure. Carol, what do you think the solutions are to be accelerated?
Fundamentally, there's something that isn't well understood, what the real problem is. The real problem is when we mechanized, when we went from horses and making things by hand and having no electricity, and then there was industrialization, right? But much of the equipment we have today still operates in the same way, still has the same controls as it did well over 100 years ago. And with all that mechanization came in the use of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are used for transportation, mobility of all different sorts of things, from ships to cars to motorcycles, etc. Fossil fuels are also used, whether it's coal or natural gas or diesel or gasoline, are used to move things or to create electricity that helps things move and help us make things. That is the fundamental problem, is these things had gears and cams when they were first designed that generate electricity, that move our things, that make things that are fixed. They're old, they're outdated, and they're not efficient. This world modernized. Communications, electronics, modernized. The mechanical world has not, and that's what Eddie's been leading actually since the Apollo program. And to give you an idea of the scope of the kind of thing that Chip was talking about, this is what Eddie's technology is called a digital valve or digital latching valve. And it's the difference it made in Apollo. They used about 1,000 times less energy because he modernized how he controlled the rockets and thrusters, the motion and the flow on the Apollo craft. 1,000 times less energy. Start thinking about this as I say these numbers of what it can mean to what we're all worried about if we can save this type of energy use in the equipment that we have, that we use, that industry uses, in the things that we ride in and other people move around. Irrigation was the next thing that he tackled with this small, fast digital valve that he'll tell you about. That uses 10,000 times less energy than an analog system. Then we, in our company, Sturman Industries, which we've been working on this now for 25 years, we did a pick and place machine, a tiny little pneumatic valve that's the size of my fingertip almost. We increased their throughput by 300%. We were 3 times as fast as what they had before, so they used 3 times less energy, 300% less. So now what does it mean to what we're talking about today? I actually made myself a little cheat sheet so I'd remember it all. Eddie's going to talk about, with what we've done, he's focused, and our company is focused on a big focus on power generation and mobility, which they really mean the same thing. It's how do you generate power? You generate it to make electricity, or you generate it to move something. We've figured out, Eddie's figured out under his leadership, with this one enabling technology, as it gets used out there more broadly, you can store wind and solar energy with it as a liquid fuel. It helps that. It can back up wind and solar with renewable or alternative fuels. It can help with reducing transmission losses. 7 to 10% of our energy is lost on lines, transmission lines. It can help with the water issue, and it can do it. The key is we need solutions that are safe, and we need solutions that are economical so that it'll work in the economy. It'll work for the users, it'll work for the people that make it, and that it's practical and it can be done soon. So, by the way, the California Energy Commission recognized this technology as a CO2 reduction enabler. We've done 2 programs with us, and to pass one of their laws, they asked us to speak, and this technology was recognized, and it is space technology, and it all started with this guy, and he'll tell you about it. He has 175 patents and counting around this now, up from what you reported before. So Eddie, tell us how you do it.
Well, thank you, Carol. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. I appreciate the introduction and everything that you're doing. I think it's great. Going back to what I'm doing, I try to look at the problem, the big scope of it. Everything depends on everything else. But to solve a problem, you have to find out what's causing the problem. And there is a common denominator to everything we've been speaking about today. So the question is, what would have happened if the mechanical world would have done what the space program did? And we're talking about over 50 years ago. The technology has been there. The desire to implement it was not there. And it's not there today. Why is it not there? We all know. It's a matter of money. People that make money are very comfortable. Why should they change? So my approach to that, to give people incentive to change, to show them a way of making more money with new technology, So I'm going to go back to the technology. All the numbers that you've been hearing about, they sound, oh, it's unbelievable. But it's real. And the key to it is that the electronic world discovered the power of digital thinking. And so what is it? You hear it all the time. It's digital television, digital cell phones. But what it is that in the past, energy was used not just to change states from closed to open or from 0 to 1. They use it to keep in state, but you're not doing anything. That's what's so inefficient. Things that you only put energy to move from one point to another, and then you don't do anything. Then you wait till it's time to go back. If that's only the energy that you use, it's a small, small fraction of what it takes to do it. And Carol mentioned the word analog. I grew up with analog, which is the inefficient system that I described. But space had a big issue. We didn't know how to do it. Kennedy promised something, and all the scientists said, is it crazy? We don't know how to do all these things. But we invented a way out of necessity. And electronic people by then got it, that they had to change from analog to digital. And I saw what they did, and I thought that's very simple, very brilliant. Why can't I do it in the mechanical world? So once you do that, everything becomes very small, because when you waste energy, it turns into heat. Everything gets hot. When it's hot, it gets bigger. When it gets bigger, it gets slower. So there is a spiral of inefficiencies. So key is to turn the spiral around and make it more efficient. So it becomes smaller, faster, less expensive. So that was what I was looking at, just copying what electronic has done in the mechanical world. It was very, very difficult to convince people that were making devices get it. So as a result, we started our own company to compete with them, because they were not going to do it. The government couldn't do it. Somebody had to do it. So we started a company. And what does it mean? It means that when you got all the flexibility and efficiency, you can do a lot of things that you cannot do with conventional way. Like engines today, you drove it, they're all mechanically controlled. So they have to choose a fuel for an engine. And that engine would only work with that fuel, like gasoline or diesel. Now visualize that you would have controls that can figure out what to do with any fuel. You can use existing fuels, but you can use new fuels. So if our problem is carbon, why not use a fuel that doesn't have a carbon to begin with? With new technology, you can do that. When you do that, you solve the carbon problem. But you can solve a lot of other problems with it. So when you do that, everything gets better. So that now you're in a good spiral, just like this. The computers have been big, now they're tiny, and you can do so many things nobody envisioned before. And that's where we find ourselves. So now I'm going to skip a little bit. I won't get too much into the technology, how we do it, because that's not the audience here mainly. But where are we? So the idea was, how can you compete with all these big companies, General Motors, the others, when you're so small? The key to it, if you have the right answer, you can skip over them You can go to their customers. And the customers, if you give them a better product at less price, they'll be interested. So we've done it. We've demonstrated our technology. Now we're at the point where the big companies, two of the biggest companies in the world, called us.
Although, can I add to that, Eddie?
Sure, go ahead.
They called us as a result of people like you. Amory Lovins told them about us, and they called us as a result. So I think part of the solution is networking among this group. All of us that want solutions, some of us have solutions, some of us want solutions and promote them and know we need them. If you help network with people that have answers, you can make a difference. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're at the stage of we know what to do, and we're beginning to implement it. And we've done it on our own. We didn't borrow money from a bank or investors. You know, Carol has reminded me a specific example. There are fuels that are great, but they were never used because there wasn't an engine that could burn them. NH3, I don't know how many of you are aware of it. It's anhydrous ammonia. It's not used as a fuel because nobody could burn it efficiently. We can do it. So now how does that connect to water? You can take water from the ocean, places that we're worried about the rise of the level of the ocean. And you can convert that with wind and solar to a fuel that doesn't have carbon. NH3, there's no C in it, there's no carbon in it. So, but what happens when you deliver it, you not just deliver fuel. The byproduct is pure water and nitrogen. So for places, underdeveloped countries, what a solution. You get something that you can drive your vehicles, you can generate your electricity, but you also get water. So that's how things begin to connect. And they connect, in my opinion, also to the last panel that was here, that if we can give this to the world, there won't be that much need to worry about each other. People fight wars out of desperation. But if they would have their necessity, then all of a sudden people are going to work together, take the reasons out of the fear of war. And I believe that what we're talking about now, what we can do it. So
equipment, mobility, and stationary power all can be modernized in a simple, practical way now to be a key enabler to solve the issues.
That's brilliant, and I applaud you both for your determination to bring to the world the solutions that are necessary. Sturman Industries, for those who don't know, is located in Woodland Park, and they have one of the most extraordinary facilities that develops the absolute latest technologies in engine and valve development. I think that if we could do a rapid transition to having valves in our motors that can burn gasoline, diesel fuel, any form of fuel at millionths of a second.
LG, biodiesel,
Right.
NH3.
It eliminates the
new fuels.
camshaft. You no longer, that's 100-year-old technology. And Eddie and Carol have been moving forward this system, and now it's about implementation. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, how's it going there?
I think California Energy Commission is one of the facilitators now. UCLA just won a program for stationary power centered on our controls. It's taking an engine, keeping it intact except for the controls on the top, the camshaft, the fixed mechanical part. You take that off, you put these micro valves that are very fast, very smart. You can connect it with sensors to the microprocessor. Now that engine that can be used for stationary power or mobility, either one, can accommodate any fuel in a very efficient way, very clean way, so you don't have emissions. You can control combustion so you don't have NOx. NOx forms at a high temperature. If you've got fast, ultra-fast, flexible, smart controls, it can adjust to the fuel, whatever it sees on demand, any fuel. It can take any liquid or gaseous fuel. We're going to demonstrate this in Los Angeles. There's going to be an advisory board. It's going to be a stationary power customer. We're going to generate electricity with truck engines that are modernized that will use different fuels, including natural gas and NH3, if California will allow it. The proposal said NH3 and natural gas. And they're putting together an advisory board of all the major users and interested parties in all of California. That is going to create a draw. The industry doesn't want to change. Mechanical industry doesn't want to change. But with people, we have the what you know, I always say. What we need is the who you know. For us, AREI is a who you know. And this room is probably filled with who you knows. You are connected to people that can make a difference by introducing the technology to somebody. We don't have to make it. We just want to get it out into the world. In fact, we don't do large-scale manufacturing, but through our network, we can influence what happens. And this is not something far off into the future. It's a now solution that affects everything we're talking about.
So if I understand this correctly, Eddie, you're suggesting that nitrogen, which I think comprises 80% of our atmosphere,
Yeah, 78%.
We could extract that and then use it as a fuel because now you've developed the technologies that can actually burn it efficiently, where we produce no CO2. And that gives us an opportunity to really be able to transition from a fossil fuel extractive technology.
The answer is yes. What did you ask me?
We had a phone call last week where, related to this, where the former head of research and development for BP called us. He's now clean energy technology something or other. He's in a nonprofit. And he said, I think NH3 is the only answer. So he was talking about a liquid storable fuel, how to store wind and solar in a liquid fuel and move it and store it wherever you want. And you have 1 minute.
Oh. Okay, I can speak for a lot longer than that, but so many implications to this thing. It's kind of mind-blowing, but I don't sleep at night. I keep thinking about how to solve all the different problems, and it's not just technical. The technical part was easy because I already did it in the space program. It's more of how do you go around people that are fighting over things like what causes global warming? Who cares? Let's just get a solution and get over these arguments.
He says, please end.
Okay.
And you might want to talk to Eddie about electrification. His expertise is electrification, efficient magnetics, and he has a lot of concern around broad-scale electrification for human health.
Great. Well, Eddie and Carol, thank you so much for joining us in Aspen again. And if anybody wants to talk to Eddie, he'll be around for the rest of the summit, and Carol, so please do so. Let's give him a big hand for his innovation.